Okay, everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to vote in that poll. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and then I will share that with everybody. So if you should be able to see, oh, hold on. So you should be able to see the, there you go, the, does your business have a current mobile strategy? So that's at the 82% of you said that you did not. So if you don't have one, you're in the right place. Today's webinar is Managing Mobiles for Money. My name is Scott Clonico. I am the editor of MSP Business Management, the website that we run here at GFI. With me today, I have got Cees, Ben, Dan, and Chris. I'll give these gentlemen a chance to introduce themselves. We've got people spread all over the United States, Scotland, and in Europe right now, so it should be a interesting webinar. Before we start, a couple housekeeping things. We are recording this webinar. It will be available probably about couple days after we're done here. You'll get a link from the GoToMeeting software that'll tell you where you can download that from. And also, you feel free to ask questions during the webinar through the chat interface there. I just sent everyone a message there. So feel free to ask questions. Even if we don't get to them, I'll pass these along to the gentlemen on the panel today, and they'll be able to hopefully answer some of these questions for you. So I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Martin, and he can introduce the rest of the panel. And Chris, I'm going to need to hide this and then make you the presenter. All right, and I will turn things over to you, Mr. Martin.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Scott, and I'm glad to be back in the webinar series. I've got with me Fraser McDonald here in Scotland, so Fraser, this is a reminder to you if I talk too quickly for our American people, then you used to kick me under the table. No. So, okay, so as the agenda for today is brief introductions. We'll introduce the guests. I wanted to talk very quickly about some research that we've done around mobiles. We have 5 questions to put to the panel, and we will take questions from the audience. If you use the chat facility to type in questions that you want the guys to answer. We've got a fantastic panel today. I'm really pleased that this is a very last-minute organization. I left it too late, but somehow we managed to get a great panel, so it should be great. And then after the questions, I'll just take a minute to update everybody on our plans for mobile device management. And then at the end of it, there's, as Scott says, contact details for everybody. So, Ben, say hello.
Hi, my name is Ben Custalow. I'm with Par3IT in Minnesota here, and I have 15 years network administration experience and been working with Par3IT here for about 4 years now as a partner, providing end-to-end technical solutions for small and medium business. So that's kind of what we do. And
okay, that's cool. I mean, I asked Ben along because Ben will give us some news, I think, from the streets. You know, but he's in speaking to customers every single day, so I think he'd be a good representative of that kind of viewpoint. Cees is in the Netherlands. Cees, say hello.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I don't quite know, but I'm in Holland, currently Amsterdam indeed. My name is Cees Quirijns. I'm CEO and co-founder of FirmTel. FirmTel is a Dutch software company that develops solutions for the modern mobile workforce, as we like to say it. We namely believe that employees and businesses alike will benefit tremendously if we would all be allowed and if we all would be able to essentially work anywhere. So that's where our solutions are directed at and focused on. We're bringing fixed and mobile connectivity to businesses together with clever solutions for being reachable as an organization. And in order to do that, we've developed a platform which is called Simplicity, or Simple Integrated Mobile Management for the Modern Workforce, as we like to call it, allowing MSPs to have one single pane of glass to manage the entire communications infrastructure for their business clients. So that's about it.
Okay, I mean, I think Cees will be a good one because Cees knows a lot about mobile. I think what Cees didn't touch on is FirmTel are currently operating in the Netherlands, but the plans to widen out to the US, Cees?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So looking at an entry in the US market as well as in the UK market for that matter.
Okay, cool. Dan, I'm sure lots of you in MSP land will know of Dan. Dan's been around quite a long time and worked for one of our esteemed competitors previously, so say hello, Dan.
Hi, everybody. Good morning from Laguna Beach, California, here in our ClikCloud studios. Thanks for that introduction, Chris. I think been around a while. Makes me feel old, but that's okay. My company, ClikCloud, was founded about 18 months ago. I started the company to help IT service providers grow their business. ClikCloud is a marketing as a service platform, so it's a cloud-based offering that provides websites, email marketing, blogging services, website analytics, and pretty much everything you need to manage your digital marketing programs. Some of you may know me from my work with the Computing Technology Industry Association, CompTIA. I'm a former board member, and I currently am on faculty there and speak on the topic of mobile strategies on a regular basis. A little bit more, I also chair an organization called Tech Voice for California, where we do advocacy work. I was just testifying in Washington on the topic of Washington, D.C. on the topic of cyber security just recently. And just one last little take on the area of mobility. Way back when, and go back to 2000, 2001, I was working with a company called Vicinity, which is now Microsoft Maps. And back in the day, we were one of the early providers on the Verizon deck. We had something that's very common today, which was a locator, maps and directions on a phone. So it didn't work as well on a dumb phone as it does on a smartphone today, but nonetheless, early adopter of mobile platforms technology. So happy to be here today. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'm Chris Martin. I'm here in Dundee, Scotland, where actually GFI Max was started. I have to say that, unfortunately for everybody else in the company, I was one of in fact, the original, and it's grown up since to be all over the world. And for the last year, I've not really been involved with GFI Max. I've been working with another company that we acquired in Armenia, which is in the very easternmost part of Europe, Fraser, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm making my return here to the GFI Max webinar, and already I can feel myself speaking too quickly. So let's crack on to the research there. So I thought this graph was really useful to help frame a discussion. You can see from this graph that there's going to be an enormous growth in smartphones, a good growth in tablets, but desktop units appear to be stagnant. And in fact, some of the research I've had lately suggests that it might even be in decline. The other thing that I think is a good issue to talk about in terms of the backdrop is what I see is people are pitching up to work with their fancy, shiny devices, and they're expecting you to connect them to the network, and they will no longer take no for an answer. You can't be the IT guy that says no anymore. You've got to find a way, and you've got to find a way to do it securely. So we ran a survey this month, in fact, and focusing on mobile devices, and I'll go through this very quickly. We asked the MSPs, and we had a decent response to this, and basically the blue bits are where they're not organized to monetize around mobile, and red are the people that are doing it. But if you consolidate that, it comes up to 70 or 80%, which was very consistent with what we had earlier on in the poll, people that are not monetizing around mobiles. So again, and this is a chart which I think Cees will be interested to talk to later on there. If they are monetizing mobiles, then they're monetizing around support and provisioning, but they're certainly not doing anything on the wider opportunity. In terms of current OSs, most of the action occurs around iOS. In the future, the MSPs expect that to change, and they think Android will grow a lot and iOS will decline. And Windows Mobile, interestingly, will become a good player in that. They tell us that they expect the devices they'll be working on are an equal split between business-owned devices and employee-owned devices. So that's a big issue. How do you secure those devices? And in terms of the tasks that MSPs need us to help them with, it's about provisioning the mobile device and security. We asked a question about how much the expected customers might pay for a mobile device management service, and you can see the answer there. They think it will be a small monthly fee or an installation fee. So again, we have to work these issues through. So the conclusions are mobiles are growing really quickly, desktops are stagnant. users are now telling you the way they want to work, and they're turning up with their own devices. There's an opportunity there. There's a lot of money to be made to enable and secure this customer desire, and this is a strong customer desire. They're very emotionally attached to their devices. There may well be lots of other services that MSPs can provide around mobiles, airtime, handsets, insurance, disposal, and all fantastic reseller recurring revenue opportunities. So I'll come back to what we plan to do with mobile device management at the end of the presentation. So, question one, and this goes to Ben. Ben, so what's the word on the street regarding mobiles? What are you hearing out there?
Well, what I've noticed mostly, and this has really started to take off in 2012, but most of our customers actually have purchased tablets for their employees. It's about a half dozen or so maybe right now, but I'm starting to see that take off more and more this year in 2013. And they're asking for those to be supported, and that comes with a lot of security concerns because they're going to have corporate data on these. So that is definitely something that I have been seeing a lot of lately. Just customers asking us to get these hooked up to their networks and support those, and that's not even including the personal like smartphones and things that people are bringing in and wanting to be hooked up to email and such.
So presumably, Ben, the first thing they ask for is email, calendaring, and maybe tasks. They're interested in Exchange server integration first off?
Yep, that's been really the first thing, is starting with the smartphones, and now with the tablets, they're actually need Wi-Fi access and documents they're wanting to work on there. So it started to become a lot more of a trend that started really last year and is accelerating.
Okay, and what are you finding about the split relative to business-owned devices and BYOD? Is it about 50-50 or?
Well, really, it really started at the beginning of 2012 as mostly BYOD, but like I said, now the businesses are starting to see the productivity increases, and businesses are starting to provide more and more devices. I'd say maybe it's only 30% business-provided devices and 70 BYOD at this point, but as more businesses recognize the advantage and cost savings of it, they're going to be providing more of these type of devices to their employees rather than a laptop or a PC. That's the way I see the trend going in the future.
Okay, thanks for that. Ben, Dan, what's your take?
Well, you hit a couple key points with the research as far as the drivers for the demand on the customer side. I think communications and consumerization in the first place is one of the #1 drivers, just that it's so easy for the end user to hook themselves up or to download apps, and it's just something that they expect. And then there's a whole millennial generation that just won't even take a job if they can't use their smartphone during the normal work day. And in some cases, it's actually even part of their job description to be supporting social media efforts within the company. And that's a big driver there. I think also other drivers is just the cloud and cloud sharing, just being able to access data from any device from anywhere. That's an important trend. And I think the other trend is it's the mobile workforce. So employers are realizing that they can either save money or squeeze more out of their existing employees by enabling them to use mobile devices to, frankly, work anywhere. So I think that you really hit that when it came to the research and the drivers. I think that the end users, they may ask for help. I think the reality is they're probably doing it themselves. Clearly they're doing it themselves because it's a huge trend, and in your research and with the audience today, everything supports it. It's probably 85% untapped by managed service providers. So the end users are out there implementing their own mobile strategies, which as IT professionals we know can be very dangerous, because the top issue and it's really just the tip of the iceberg, but the top issue is it's IT security. Those devices are vulnerable in so many different ways. I mean, if you look at attack from virus or malware. Maybe a year ago, McAfee was tracking maybe thousands of intrusions, and now they're looking at hundreds of thousands that they need to keep track of. So that's just an exploding area, and I think it's really incumbent on the managed service provider, if you're taking responsibility for that network, for those corporate assets and data, to really get out there and get your arms around what your clients are doing when it comes to mobile device management, mobile strategies. So I guess there's a huge opportunity there, and clearly managed service providers, it seems, based on the data, with the high value that you can bring to the table and the low amount being charged, or the low amount of penetration in the market, clearly not monetizing it. And I know we're going to talk later on pricing, so I'll kind of reserve that for later.
Okay, cool. Cees, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. Well, a lot has been said already, but I think if you look at the number of big research papers out there in the marketplace, for example, from IDC, you see that a lot of businesses, especially in the US, have already kind of adopted a mobile workforce. Yeah. IDC estimates that about 75% of the current US employee base is already able to work mobile, basically. Over here in Europe, the figures are slightly different. Around 50% is what these guys are estimating. So what is rather interesting, at least from my point of view, is that there were previously, from an IT management point of view, you were able to dictate as to what employees would use, basically, right? Which desktops, which access to which network resources, which servers, etc. On the mobile side, that has kind of surpassed, any controllability of IT management. So despite the fact that, indeed, we're not really able to secure these devices correctly, and despite the fact that we might not be able to support these devices to a large extent, people are using them anyway. And what Dan just said, I think, is absolutely true. That has to do a lot with the consumerization of these devices. So I do think that it's a kind of a different world compared to the desktop server infrastructure that most MSPs and IT service providers are used to. It's a slightly different world, which also, I think, dictates a bit of a different approach. Nevertheless, I do think that MSPs as such, as a group, are best positioned, to take on this entire mobile infrastructure, to take it in basically as part of the overall proposition that they're offering. But I'm also coming to the conclusion, specifically over here again in Europe, that MSPs are definitely not monetizing that opportunity. So for whatever reason, at least from this side of the pond, it looks like that business is not necessarily going to the IT domain, at least not yet, but is essentially almost on a self-service level being employed by a lot of businesses. So we've got very strong business drivers, right? Increase in productivity, but also potential benefits in terms of pure finance. So businesses want it, but I think that there's not enough propositions in the marketplace just yet to also make that an easy way and easy implementation route for these businesses. And I think that's where the opportunity lies, and where MSPs as such, are best positioned to benefit from that opportunity.
Okay, thanks, Cees. Scott, do you want to make a shout out about asking questions?
Yeah, that's what I've been putting. I put that out into the little chat interface there, so everyone can ask questions. Feel free. If we don't get to them, we'll have a Q&A at the end, right, Chris?
Sorry, say that again.
We're gonna have a Q&A at the end.
Oh yeah. There's space for a Q&A at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we have had Ken. Ken's wanted to jump into the conversation here. He's thrown out a few comments. Thank you, Ken. He just says they're using all their mobile devices are going through their local network and then out to the internet. That's how he's got it set up over there.
Okay. Question 2. So I guess I think Dan alluded to this question. So on packaging and pricing a mobile service, what do you think, Dan? I mean, what's your advice here?
So as with any IT services, when you start looking at pricing models as a managed service provider or any other IT service, it seems that the bundling strategies are the best ways to maximize your value and your revenue from your clients. And what I mean by that is, rather than just selling a flat service for wiping a device or flat service for tracking a lost or stolen device, start looking at your services stack and bundle up a variety of services. So it could be a base level service, as I just described, but maybe you want to also add in security protection, just like you might do for any other endpoint. Maybe you want to add in some data backup. Maybe you want to add in some application management, which is a huge, huge untapped issue there alone. Many of the apps that the users can download can actually either infect the device or corrupt data or harvest data through social media networks. And just take, for example, a corporate contact list and all of a sudden blast it out to everybody at somebody's social network. So ways of creating a curated app store, or maybe taking it to another level and actually add in all the data access, all the voice access, maybe bundling it in with PBX management. Hosted voice is another opportunity that you could provide in when it comes to overall everything that has to touch that handset or that device, all the way up to expense and policy management, and then add on top of that on the back end the opportunity to help your clients actually develop those policies. Often overlooked, you can become the human resource department's best friend by going in and saying, whether you have a corporate-owned device or whether you have a bring-your-own device policy, we need to make sure that you have an acceptable use policy, that all your employees understand the security risks and the usage requirements of that device, whether it's how to use it on location, what applications they are or aren't allowed to download, or when do they need to know to disclose a data breach from a policy standpoint. So there's plenty of opportunity to make money. When it comes to the price points that are in the market today, it seems like the most common thing is service providers either aren't doing anything or they're charging $5 per device to track it and wipe it and monitor it like an IT asset. So if you've heard Gary Pica talk, he'll always tell you to sell the cake, not the ingredients. And my advice there is to sell a layer cake. So make sure that you've got lots and lots of layers and lots of options, or at least a few options for that cake. Maybe it's the good, better, best type of model. And so taking it from just a $5 to $10 add-on, maybe you could actually double your, actually I've seen some double their revenue and get up to $100 per employee on average when selling a total managed mobile strategy to their clients.
Okay, so I guess, we'll be, I think Dan's advice is great. We'll certainly be adding to our building block stack around mobile. That'll be done in the next, I guess, couple of months, certainly around or before time of launch. Ben, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I think really the big drivers of the management of these devices is going to really be security, since they are so mobile and easily lost, and customers are going to probably have security encryption and antivirus for laptops and things already, but they might necessarily not have that for like Android and iOS. And especially with all the corporate data that's going to be on there, it should be easy to be able to sell the security part of the service, as an ongoing monthly revenue, like Dan mentioned, just because, for security, it's going to have to be an ongoing, constant thing. So the the multi-tiers. In the multi-tiers, you can add in, more advanced options like application management things at higher price points, some of the more complicated things. But, start out with your basic. These security options are what you really need to provide to have mobile devices be on your corporate network. And then, nice to have like application whitelisting, blacklisting, or stores or things like that as higher tier options with the ability to provide them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that approach, Ben. Cees, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of second what the previous speakers have said. I think if you look at it from my experiences from talking to end users, so that's basically business customers, I think that it's very clear that they want the advantages, right? So the ability to have their workforce essentially work anywhere. But they're not necessarily so interested in all the technology behind it to really facilitate that. So if you come in with a proposition and say, hey, listen, I can offer you a mobile device management solution, for example, and it will cost you X dollars, $5 per device per month, this end user, this business user, does not necessarily think it's a good deal. Says, okay, well, maybe I can buy somewhere else for $3, what exactly does it do, etc. So what I'm a big advocate of is the approach that Dan suggested, and that is to sell the cake and not the ingredients, and say essentially, what we will do is we will offer you a total solution to manage your mobile workforce, and that has a lot of building blocks, right? Mobile device management, but also application management, connectivity, don't forget that, right? Either VoIP or GSM mobile connectivity. So there's all these building blocks, let me take care of that for you in a packaged proposition, and pay me on that basis instead of selling each and every individual ingredient or component individually. Now, the second thing, what I have noticed in terms of a go-to-market strategy, which works very well, at least in this environment, that is to indeed go over the axis of human resources policy. Because looking again at the statistics, right, 75% of the mobile of the workforce already being mobile currently, it is kind of a good opportunity to come into a business user and say, hey, listen, you've got so many employees already walking around with iPads and iPhones and Android devices, etc., right, having access to your network resources. But have you really thought about all the consequences of that, amongst other, what Ben just mentioned, the security angle of things. So, and to make it even more complicated, these devices are not necessarily owned by you, but they're owned by your employees, right? So even if you would want to arrange for proper security, are you allowed to do that on those devices? So a very handsome way of getting this discussion going is to indeed go over the HR policy axis and say, okay, do you have a bring your own device or corporate-owned, personally enabled policy, so COPE or BYOD? And if not, let me help you to set this policy as a first step, and then work from there. Because in the policy, we will come to the conclusion that we need all kinds of functionalities arranged properly within the business. And you know what? I, as your MSP, are exactly the one who can offer you these individual building blocks. So my suggestion, or at least advice on the pricing and packaging side, is to package, price as a whole indeed, and try to move in on a hot area, a hair on fire problem, and that is via the policy of these devices.
Okay, great stuff. Question 3. I mean, I put this question to Dan first. What's the value? I mean, what the end customer, what problem is he wanting to solve? I mean, I know we've talked about security, and I know we've talked about access to company information and company systems. So what is it they're buying from you, Dan?
Right. So when you look at it from the security standpoint, as Ben mentioned, that's a top concern, and that top concern is often overlooked by the business owner. They may not really think about the data risk. So I think that's incumbent on the service provider to educate their customers on that. So that's probably not the market driver of why they really need your services, but that's really the call it the pain point, or we call it the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, the FUD factor that could maybe help you get the contract closed. They're looking at it from an enablement standpoint, and what's great about mobility is a lot of times it could even be driven by the functional department, not necessarily from an IT organization. So it could be Salesforce enablement. Somebody implemented software as a service CRM application that enables their Salesforce by download of a mobile app, and now all of a sudden, whether it's bring your own device or corporate data, all employees in that sales team have access to that that corporate data, those corporate assets. And when they're out there in the field, it may or may not be secure. They may not be thinking about that, but what they may be thinking of is really bad connectivity. So as Ben mentioned in his opening remarks about, well, what issues his customers are facing, it's maybe they need to hook up all those shiny new devices to the network, and the network Wi-Fi just doesn't really support it, whether it doesn't support it from a bandwidth standpoint or whether it doesn't support it from a security standpoint. That's a great opportunity for a managed service provider to engage with their customers and look at it more from a holistic standpoint, not just from a device-by-device standpoint. Then there's the issues of, they may not realize it now, but lifecycle management. So I get a new device. Is it something that we can support within our organization? So is it on the form factor list that the IT organization says is okay? What happens if it's lost or stolen? Not only do we track it and wipe it, but how do we provision a new device quickly with all the access to all those apps that are approved from the App Store for that company? So I think those are part of the drivers as well. And then when you start looking at really what is it about a mobile device, why is it that people want to buy them? Well, it allows them to stay connected wherever they are. So if it's after hours and they're at their kids' soccer game, what have you, and they want to have access to their email, that's one reason, and it squeezes out productivity. Or it might be task-based. For example, maybe it's a lot of field employees that for example, a tablet is just way more suitable for the activity that they're performing than a laptop computer, because the tablet, they can hold it while standing and still be functional and actually get their tasks done instead of having to sit and type. So lot of real life issues out there for why customers are converting to mobile strategies. The last question is how to strike up that conversation. I think that it gets back to the policy issues that Case brought up, because I think it's a deeper discussion, a higher level discussion. So do you have a mobile device strategy? What's your policy? Is it bring your own device to corporate? You don't really know? Well, the implications can really be challenging, because again, if whether it's a corporate-owned device or an employee-owned device, if it's lost or stolen, that company has a certain responsibility as well as a liability to protect the data on that device. So just like it's maybe easy to go wipe corporate data off an employee-owned device, but that employee may also have family photos and personal data, and depending on the privacy laws of where that employee resides, the employer may not be able to just wipe all that entire device if it's not properly backed up. So you want to make sure that you have that kind of discussion, and then maybe engage with an assessment with your customer. So go in and say, I'll go do a policy review, or just like you might do a network audit for compliance for the network, go do an audit to see how effective the policies and procedures are in place with the clients. Ask those questions. Do you have a policy? What is the policy? Is it in writing? Have your employees signed an acceptable use policy or statement as an employee? Is your network up to speed? Do you know what apps your employees are using on those corporate-owned or employee-owned devices? So plenty of ways to engage with your clients in the area of mobility.
Okay, Cees, I mean, I know you agree with Dan. I mean, you would probably lead with talking about the policy, the wider security policy around mobile devices. But what about widening this out to actually purchasing the devices, talking about airtime and making sure you're on the best call packages and so on?
Yeah, I think that's another issue. You know, I mean, again, a lot of point solutions in the marketplace, basically, and not one general solution. And airtime is one of these elements, basically. So connectivity, as we like to call it, so mobile airtime or VoIP airtime, you know, is always okay. So both aspects are actually of great importance. Regarding this question, I think that the biggest issue that the end customer really wants to solve is seldomly a technology-related issue. You know, it's always a business issue. And looking again at recent research of, in this case, good technologies, I think that the basic idea is that companies are looking to improve basically two main areas of their business, and one is productivity of their employees, and the other one is obviously customer satisfaction of their customers. So what happens if you enable a mobile workforce, you know, and you give them access mobily to all kinds of corporate resources? You know, they check their email, you know, after hours, they work after hours, etc., etc., without any real necessity of you as a company to pay those employees for those additional hours. It boils down to roughly, at least that's the estimate of good technologies, roughly 7 hours per week that employees work longer, you know, on the business without being compensated for it in terms of salary. So that's a huge productivity gain. I think that's one of the main drivers of this mobility strategy for businesses. And the other part of it, as I said, is customer satisfaction. You know, everybody wants to have an immediate response to a problem if they pose it to a company. If that is done from 9 to 5 between very fixed brackets, you know, and if you're out for a meeting, etc., you're unable to respond to this customer, then obviously the better scenario is if you're able to do that anywhere, any place, and independent of hours. So those two areas, productivity and customer satisfaction, are, in my view, the biggest issues that the end customer wants to improve. And all the technology, you know, which is listed there on this sheet, is, I think, you know, technology to help you facilitate to accomplish those two goals.
Okay, Ben, is there anything you want to say on this topic, or has it been covered?
Yeah, it mostly has. I just wanted to say, yeah, I agree that the best way to strike up the conversation is really, you know, get in there and they have these devices, you know, what are the policy and plans? And one thing you were talking about selling other things like plans and devices, you can talk to them that they already have, you know, people bringing their own devices. So, you know, rather than that, you can talk to them about just providing the mobile devices rather than having them use their own. That way you can get into, you know, that they can standardize on one device. You can source, you know, the tablets for them and the plans, and maybe get some reseller money that way, actually, you know, helping them provide these mobile devices to their employees rather than just adopting the bring your own device. So that's another area of conversation.
Okay, cool. I think that's actually covered in the next slide, that very topic. Scott, are we getting questions in, Scott?
Yeah, we are. Thanks for Ken. Ken pops in with some helpful things. I think he's using Verizon, which he says has a pretty good data management package. I'll post that link. And then Daniel, on this kind of the same subject, Daniel's wanting to know about what's the, I mean, this might be for the Q&A, but he's basically saying what is a way to approach a company with like less than 25 employees to, you know, stress that they need mobile device management.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we're pushed for time, so we'll circle back and we'll take some questions, but keep firing them in, guys. So we're always interested to hear your questions. Question 4, again, if my PowerPoint would move on. Okay. So what are the other opportunities around mobile beyond support? You know, and I think that Ben talked about that, handset sales. Case has talked about airtime packaging. I think Dan's talked about. I put in this word securitization or securitizing, which I know is a bad word, but secure line of business applications via terminal services or so on. And when time comes to reallocate a device or even dispose of the device, so you know, what would you see are the other opportunities beyond just support of the handset and the user case?
Exactly what's listed there, and I will concentrate on the communications side of it, simply because that's our business. We think, you know, delivering connectivity, so airtime as well as VoIP connectivity is one element that you want to bring to companies. On top of that, you want to bring reachability, in my view, to these companies. It's nice that you're connected, you know, in terms of voice communications, for example. But if that leads to your organization not being reachable for your clients, then you still have a big problem. So everything PBX, hosted voice related, is, in my view, excellent in terms of supporting this mobile trend. Don't forget that mobile will lead to more communications going forward, certainly not less. The fact that we can be everywhere, you know, it just makes it even more important to arrange communication scenarios properly and make sure that your organization is still reachable. If you no longer sit with 4 people in a room anymore, but are at different locations spread out. So in my view, reachability and connectivity are just easy parts that you have to take in as a total solution. In that sense, competing perhaps a bit with the big telecommunications companies in the world. The beautiful thing is that since these two domains are so much converging right now, so IT and telecom basically, is that a lot of telecommunications companies have pretty big difficulties to support their end users properly, simply because they do not control all the IT assets that are underlying it. I always give the example of a customer calling a telecommunications company saying, hey, listen, my email doesn't work, so can you help me out, please? And then generally speaking, a telco doesn't go any further than saying, okay, well, you know, maybe you want to surf on your mobile device to the New York Times, you know, does it show up? If so, okay, well then it's not my problem, you know, then it's probably your email server or whatever, but it's not my cup of tea, you know, contact your MSP. So what I think the opportunity is that you as an MSP, because you already control the bulk of these IT assets anyway for the company, you know, is that you simply take in the connectivity aspect as well, and with that provide a overall good support and user experience for those end customers. So my 2 cents would be connectivity, take that in as a part and parcel of your offering towards these businesses.
Okay, so I'll let you do a bit of a plug here, because that's exactly what FirmTel plans to do for MSPs that allow them to manage connectivity for their mobile devices, right?
Thanks for the plug, yeah.
Okay, okay, that'll be $100.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, Ben.
Yeah, I guess I already started touching on this last time, but yeah, as I said, it's a lot of just BYOD at this point, and when you get the conversation started with do they have a policy in place to control these BYOD, can lead into, you know, instead of having, you know, just a haphazard, you know, everyone buy what they like, you know, some type of more standardization. Or I've seen, you know, especially in the last year, companies start to provide especially tablets for their employees so they can be more mobile, and so you can talk to them about, you know, airtime, maybe get into some reselling of the actual devices and the airtime and things like that. So that's definitely there are definitely opportunities there from what I've seen.
What about making corporate applications available via the mobile, Ben? I mean, you know, do you see a role for MSPs there?
Yes. Definitely. That's actually, I've been involved with a couple of our customers actually in vendor evaluations for different workflow things, like a manufacturing company that has field techs out in the field that want to do work orders. They want to have their work order system automatically send the work orders out to a device and have them be able to fill in the information when it comes back, rather than relying on paper and kind of more manual system. There are people looking to automate these processes, and that's where tablets can definitely come into effect. And we are, looking at that from an MSP. We're providing solutions to our customers, and that's one of the things when they come to us with a need, like we'd like to make this work better. The mobile platform, and there's a lot of technology out there that can facilitate this, but the customers need someone to be able to tell them what's going to work for their needs and help them implement this kind of stuff. And I have been seeing a lot of need for that lately, just to better streamline corporate businesses and their processes and get away from paper. That's one of the things where the tablets really excel, to be able to capture data and get it back into an ERP system or something like that without having to rely on manual entry.
Okay, great answer. So, Dan, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm going to put my CompTIA hat on and maybe relay a couple of anecdotes from the classroom. So when I teach a class in mobile strategy, whether it's a quick start workshop or a 4-parter all-day session, when asked in the classroom, numbers are the same. 15% of the people have some kind of mobile strategy, but often comes up is that mobile app developer, as Ben just mentioned. So there's some CompTIA research that was done late last year that indicates that that is a big opportunity for the channel. 68% of business owner and internal IT organizations say that they would look to outsource the development of mobile applications. And probably one of the most extreme implementations that had come up from the classroom setting in a workshop asking, so what kind of mobile apps do you develop? Somebody was doing a triage system for healthcare. I think it was in the state of, I want to say it was Wyoming, North Dakota, somewhere where there's just a lot of roads and not a lot of population. And it could be expensive to put a doctor out in the field, so they have mobile apps by tablet computers in the ambulance so the nurse can be on site and stream data back to a physician who can actually help with the triage. And that the topic comes up, that's all covered under HIPAA, and the data needs to be encrypted over the wire, encrypted at rest. What do we do? What do we do for security of the device itself? So a lot of IT-related issues, a lot of very specific use cases for somebody with a tablet out in the field. So that app development, I would reiterate Ben's comment, very big opportunity. And then Case brought it up, so I'll just as a reminder, is the policy issue, kind of segueing to Daniel's question about why would a small business owner, or why should they care? Well, mobile devices are more you're just going to see more loss of devices, and they're more susceptible to viruses, just because they're newer and they're just under attack. And so that small business owner may have risk of privacy data being leaked out of their organization, and there's no doubt that mobile devices are probably the best example of where they have an exposure today. So having that frank conversation with your clients about policies and making sure the policies are written and that there's technology in place to enforce the policy, again, good way to engage and great opportunity for value-added revenue. And then maybe the last thing that's not on the list is to be able to do some basic education for your clients. So go out there and train the employees on the importance of security and making sure that they take those patches, security patches, operating system patches, making sure that they have solid password strategies in place, making sure that they're aware of the risks of downloading blacklisted applications or sharing corporate data on their social networks. It's all opportunity for the IT service provider.
Okay, so we'll move on, but I mean, I think what I'm taking away there is a huge opportunity around app development and making line of business applications available via mobile devices there, but there's quite a skills gap because this is not something that MSP guys have focused on traditionally. So the last question is, again, my PowerPoint's stuck. Last question is crystal ball time. So this is now, and now is the future. You know, it's what we are thinking is the future. But what's this going to look like in 3 years' time? I mean, how do you see this panning out, Cees? I mean, what's 3 years down the line going to look like? Is the bulk of work going to be done on mobile phones, do you think, or tablets?
Well, probably not on those devices. You know, it's going to be, the work is going to be mobile in my view. You know, it's just, we're just moving away from this entire idea of going to work at the same time and finishing off at the same time and then going home in the same traffic jam, basically. So there's a lot of tools and devices, etc., which are hitting the marketplace, and which, in my view, will continue to hit the marketplace, which will just facilitate, you know, this flexibility in the employment community. And I think we're going to see much more about this, you know, from this basically in future. So in my view, it's not really that device-centric, but it's more the big trend of being able to essentially work anywhere, any place. So that's what I continue to see happening going forward, yeah.
Okay, this is a question to Dan, and probably the same question to Ben afterwards, but what will the MSP's workload look like in 3 years' time? You know, will it have changed away from desktop support to doing things with mobile, do you think?
I think it's additive. So just like with cloud computing, you know, a few years ago, the typical service provider was saying, well, how am I going to make money at it? And now most service providers raise their hand and say cloud computing is a significant portion of their revenue, and whether they were offering some kind of an online backup or other cloud-based service without even realizing it. So I think you're just going to see a groundswell of activity around mobile, and not all devices are created equal. So, you know, where some cases a laptop's more appropriate, some cases it's a smartphone, some cases it's a tablet. You'll find more and more in the workplace that employees are going to have multiple devices. They're just going to pick these things up over time, and a typical employee that maybe right now has one IT asset, that PC, now may have 3 different devices. Other trends that are going to drive that, machine-to-machine communication, so there may be other devices that are out in the field that are mobile, that will be additional opportunity, that are collecting data or being managed remotely, and I think that we're going to see that that's going to drive a lot of revenue back for managed service providers. And then just the everybody's doing it factor, where even your small business owners are going to be saying, why don't I have an app for that when my competitor does? Shouldn't I have that same app as well? And so technologies like HTML5 are going to make it easier for service providers, or at least your clients, to have those apps built, whether it's by you or by boutique organizations that have cross-platform support, that provide some great functionality on those form factors that, again, everybody will be doing it in a very cost-effective manner. So I think that it's just one more layer on the cake, Chris.
Okay, I mean, I actually remember writing a blog post about this 5 years ago, because about in 2006 I took my 3 PCs and I consolidated them down onto one laptop, and I ran a soft phone on there. And in 2008 and 2009, I ended up with like 7 or 8 different computing devices, mobile phones, a Mac at home, a laptop, and it's getting worse, you know. So I'm actually, the amount of devices I'm in touch with every day is growing. And the way I tend to pick up the smallest device to accomplish the task. So, you know, if I can do something on my mobile, I will, but if I need to go to my PC to do a particular piece of work, then I tend to do that. So, Ben, do you want to round that question out?
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I see that going toward, rather than being, you know, completely mobile, it'll be additional devices and additional opportunities, you know, because companies will probably keep, you know, a workstation or a desk where people will work at and have a PC, but they'll also, you know, have people being able to work in more places, like Cees was saying, you know, more being able to work at different times and in more places from home and things. So these devices, like you said, people tend to use, whatever is the easiest and most convenient device for the task. So, I can easily see people having 2 or 3 different devices that they use depending on what they're doing at the time and what is the easiest to accomplish that on. In a lot of cases, that is going to be a smartphone or a tablet, and of course, as we've talked about before, all the security concerns that's going to come along with this, but that is going to be, a major growth segment for MSPs, just being able to, just like with PCs now, providing solutions, like we said, maybe not even necessarily developing apps, but just helping people select them and support them for their line of business to be able to accomplish their line of business on these mobile devices. And then also to just be able to support them and have them work well. So.
Okay, so I mean, my takeaway is more devices equals more complexity equals more opportunity for the MSP, because that can ultimately equal more money. So I think again my PowerPoint's stuck. So I think we're going to skip the audience Q&A because we're running short on time here. So. What I really wanted to talk about just very quickly was our plan for mobile device management. We acquired a company, Visual Mobile, last year. It was a web UI for a mobile device management platform. We've spent the last few months, I've only been involved since February, and we've been rewriting the web app as an API. The reason we've been doing that is because in April, May 2013 this year, we expect to build that API into GFI Max. So we'll be offering mobile device management capability through GFI Max Q2 mid this year, and then as ever, that will be what we're terming, the launch product, and we will then develop that onwards, to add in more features and other stuff there. And if you want to speak to anybody about that, then unfortunately for everybody, I'm the project manager for that. So my contact details are over, so you'll see that's me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can Skype me directly. I unfortunately have a slightly embarrassing handle on Skype. It's Big Chris Martin. I've put down there Case's email address and Ben's email address, and we have a separate section for Dan, which I'll let him introduce.
Thanks very much. So one of the things that we typically offer for our webinar attendees is a free consultation. So it could be anything MSP, anything mobility, or just about how to grow your business when it comes to marketing. So if you want to take advantage of that, the best way is to just email us at info@ClikCloud.com with consultation, and we'll set up a 30-minute consultation. I'll get on the phone with you and talk about your business. Also, we have a bundle that we put together for all GFI customers, so you can go to ClikCloud.com/GFI, and you'll find some discounts on services, discounted sign-up fee, discounted bundled monthly subscription, as well as $249 a month for your digital marketing plan, so $99 to start. So feel free to take advantage of either of those offers, and like I said, if you want the consultation, great way to engage. Just while you're there, pick up that mobile device and email us at info@ClikCloud.com with consultation in the subject, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, great stuff. So I must apologize for the people that submitted the questions. Scott, what's the deal with that? Will we be able to answer them?
Yeah, we've got them. They all get collected into a spreadsheet, so I'll pass those around to you, Chris, and then if we didn't get to them, I guess you've got some homework, Chris.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, Scott, do you want to close the webinar out with the sort of housekeeping stuff?
Yeah, I just want to say again, everyone, this has been recorded. You'll get a link from the GoToMeeting software. It'll probably be up tomorrow, or probably most likely Monday or Tuesday. You get a link, and it'll have the page where you can download. It'll be an MP3, so you can put it on you can get it on iTunes, and then you'll also be able to download the slideshow. I've also sent around a link of our upcoming webinar, so we'd love to see you guys come back around for any of those other webinars that we have. The website again is MSP Business Management, MSPBusinessManagement.com. We've got new posts going up. We're going to be doing a site redesign, so it should be a lot more exciting place to come and visit.
Okay, so that remains for me to say thanks, Ben. Thanks for presenting the webinar. Thank you, Dan. That was excellent. And thanks, Case, for joining us from Holland. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope the MSP people out there enjoyed that.